My guest today is Vaishali Dialani, who has been a strategy-driven customer experience professional for more than 6 years. She's recognized for creating human-centered design systems for complex digital products and leading marketing initiatives across diverse industries from advertising, education, and fintech. With a collaborative mindset to make a difference, Vishali loves to understand customer needs, map out across-the-board customer journeys, be the voice of customers, and develop effective operational processes to drive customer adoption and business success. Recognized as CXPA's Emerging Leader 2022, she believes in the power of making customer experiences simple and seamless. In this episode, we talked about her role as a CX specialist and how her approach both mirrors and complements the one of a product manager. We've touched on non-digital products like manufacturing and hardware, as well as the future of CX with immersive experiences. I hope you'll enjoy this final episode of 2022, and I wish you a wonderful festive season.
Welcome to Product Perspectives, the podcast for product people that gives a voice to their stakeholders, hosted by Magali Pellissier. Each weekly episode shows you the other side of the product with interviews of the people who contribute to making products a success. They are engineers, writers, marketers, support analysts, UX designers, or even salespeople. Not only will they get the credit they deserve, but they will share their perspectives on what makes a good product and product manager. Stakeholder management is a key skill for product managers. So just as you're obsessed with listening to your customers, let's hear from your stakeholders.
Thank you very much, Vishali, for joining me today from Dubai. Is it sunny out there? Because as we were talking about before recording the interview, it has been snowing in London. So how is the weather like in Dubai?
Oh, it's really good. It's about 28 degrees. Really good summer. Really good. It's summer of the UK, but it's actually Dubai winter here.
That's great. I think lots of people will be listening, will be jealous about that. And actually, you've also worked for some time in the UK, and we're going to get back onto that later. So the first thing I want to talk about is what you're doing currently, which is you're a customer experience specialist. And I think it can mean different things depending on the company, the industry. So can you tell me a bit more about your role? What does it cover? What do you do?
Yeah, sure. So it's a very, very exciting role. It's been about 6 months since I've joined Converse Consulting as a customer experience analyst. It's a very interesting role per se, because it's a comprehensive role from a business analyst perspective with a customer experience lens. Now, as crazy as it sounds, it's been an interesting journey where I get an opportunity to actually speak to clients across the world within different domains and industries. As a CX analyst, my role really involves being a part of the discovery phase once a client decides to move ahead with us, understanding their needs, their wants, their customers, creating personas for them, mapping out the customer journeys, understanding the experience, and as a part of a consulting firm, we then take it forward and also discuss, digital experiences and what kind of platform should they use for the same.
Great. There's a lot of words that you said that resonate with me as a product manager, creating personas, the discovery phase. So that's quite interesting. And I think we're going to draw a lot of the parallels between your role as customer experience specialist and what it's like to be a product manager. So I think actually the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what do people usually think that you do when you say, I work in customer experience? What is a commonly held belief about your role that is not true?
So I think if you had asked me this question 1 year back, my answer would be quite different. But because of the content and, education that's out there about what CX professionals really do and what value they add in, people understand CX better. There is still a 10% notion of it being very similar to customer success and client success or account management. In the past, it was more focused towards digital marketing. So there's a gray space there that people are learning about more and more as and when they are interacting with more CX specialists and learning more about what CX has to offer and how it is so different from the other silos.
So, for example, let's take a few of these other roles that you've mentioned, account management, customer success, maybe marketing as well. How do you overlap with them? Do you collaborate at all with them? Is it on a weekly basis? Is it less frequently or more than that?
It all depends on the nature of the business and the clients you work with, or if you work internally as well as for your organization. CX itself is collaborative. It is working together with people across different boards. It is including even finance, I would say. Budget is such an important aspect of the whole thing. Marketing is because how do clients want to be perceived? How are they currently being perceived? What kind of marketing efforts are going into it? When it comes down to account management, a lot depends also on the relationship you have with the client. Can you hold stakeholder interviews? So there's a lot that goes behind the scenes, which is a very collaborative workspace. And that's why I love CX.
That sounds very exciting indeed. And that's one of the things I like a lot about product management, because we get to talk to so many people and you get exposure to different parts of a business and you really get that knowledge from all those different areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before moving into that role, you have a very varied experience. So you've actually worked with people you work with now, like marketing, partnerships, you've done CRM management and even communication. What have those roles taught you that make you better in your current role?
I believe everyone has to go through a journey. And so all these roles have played their parts to make me who I am today. And what I'm doing currently is making me a better version of myself. So it's always you're a lifelong learner. Each one has taught me different things. If I now can speak to marketing, I know the nitty-gritties involved in the marketing role, right? But being a part of a CRM team or CRM officer, or even partnerships where I've networked with so many diverse stakeholders across boards, it really has taught me what components are a part of those silos and how is it different than what CX has to bring in or what I offer in on the table. You need to understand when it comes down to communication and engagement, it is such a unique skill set that it only grows over time as and when you have more experiences in life. One other thing that I think as a holistic point of view has taught me besides communication is also how you can use research and data to make the right decisions for yourself and your organization and your customers, more importantly.
That is music to my ear. So music to my ears. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that actually, because if I take your previous role as head of customer experience at Now Money, which is a fintech company, you've worked on different initiatives like A/B testing, optimization, app engagement reports. So that sounds very data driven. So can you walk me through one of those projects, maybe the most impactful one? And how did that work? What did you do exactly?
So the beauty about experience is that you work together as a team. You're never working alone. And my data and analytics manager was a youth support while I executed all these initiatives. We ran so many promotions and surveys and got great insights that we never thought customers would think about us in a certain way or would behave in a certain way. So for instance, we did a homepage. So, you have a mobile app, right? I designed with my team the whole screen and everything. We did A/B testing of what a shorter version of if there was less content on the screen versus if there was more content on the screen. Do users prefer scrolling through or prefer scrolling less on a financial app? And it was interesting for us to find when we did the survey that they don't like either. They like a balance of both based on their needs. So being able to create the personalized experience on what they're looking for based on, say, if they receive their salaries, the first thing they want to know is when can they send money home. So that's what they want to see on top of the banner on when they enter the homepage. Compared to if they already have sent money home, that's not what they want to see next. They don't want to scroll enough, but they want to be able to find the next thing on top of the homepage itself. We use platforms like customer data platforms such as Insider to be able to give us these reports, filter, customers, create customer profiles, segmentation, and also very closely work with product managers, because the beauty about that is it's important to get the buy-in of product managers. As a CX professional, you can never do it alone with your marketing team or your data analytics team. What product managers can offer is the technical skills required to make the right digital experiences that you really envision as a CX person.
Right. That was my next question. I was about to ask you, so how does that work with the product manager who's in charge of that app? So You said it's important to get buy-in. Does that mean that sometimes you had some pushback?
You always have pushback. You got to remember everyone comes from different walks of life, has different experiences, comes with different backgrounds, and has to be able to share and align on creating right experiences and shared experiences. You will have different opinions. And it's important to get the buy-in of everyone on that table because we all are the decision makers for the customer. It's not only the CX person. CX person brings in a perspective, the product brings in a perspective. Does not, we will conflict over time 100%. That's, the part and parcel of being a CX person and being the voice of the customer. You are kind of the facilitator, but there will always be conflicts, and how you work around them through your right communication style, understanding the value that you want to bring in and why you want to bring in, most importantly, will help you ease those conversations and make it much better.
Right. I think that's a good point. And do you, if you manage the whole customer experience, is it only the app and one product, or is it across all products? And therefore you have to deal with different and multi-product managers?
No. So Now Money is a startup, right? So we had about one product manager, but now in the current firm that I'm working, Conibus Consulting, there are multiple. So based on different projects that I'm onboarded, I work with different people. And it's because we're a fully remote company, we have people across 12 to 15 different countries working. Now you can imagine the cultural difference, the communication style difference, and how you kind of navigate those conversations remotely. It's a good challenge to have, I must say. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's great to have exposure to so many people and so many products. So if I think about, like you said, sometimes you have some pushbacks from internally, I guess. You need to be aligned on strategy. But what do you see as the biggest challenges in customer experience, maybe for the users themselves, for the customers?
I think today customers don't have a problem with experiences, in the sense because they have a lot of competition. When I look at it as a challenge in CX perspective, as a CX professional, I think it's learning the art of balancing between personalization and global standardization in the experiences we want to offer. Having said that, when you work with brands that have multiple brands beneath them, it is a lot to take on and bring standardization into place, especially if they've been in the industry for over 100 years. It comes with a lot of credibility, legacy, processes. How do you standardize that then? There's so much you're carrying, and the stakes are so high. With that, the customers don't have a challenge. If they don't see today, if customers don't like something, they have zillion other options. And today we all are in a world of digital where we, can watch YouTube and learn anything. So, or get anything or buy anything. Everything's so digital and tech savvy. So it's more about having a challenge for a CX professional than customers. It's easy for them to move on.
I think you've mentioned a good example of watching YouTube videos to learn how a product works. Do people really do that? Do you think that's a good customer experience? And if not, what are you doing to facilitate, I guess, the onboarding of a customer education?
Oh, video content is the next big thing. Educational videos, infographic videos, just name it. And there's so much out there in today's day and age. It's almost like we are overwhelmed with a lot of content, and it's become very hard for us to choose what's right for us anymore. Having said that, when it comes down to onboarding, especially if it's remote or in person, videos is the easiest way people learn. A lot of people, like for example, when I was working with Now Money, we worked with, our customers were low income migrant workers who are less digital savvy, and they learned through video the quickest. They would watch a video and knew exactly what they had to do compared to us training them for an hour. But you don't have that time to invest in each and every person, right? Because even if you're training them face to face, they can't go back and see, oh wait, I don't know how to do this, and I'm not there suddenly to help them. So videos are always an easy way to catch back what they learned and have something that they feel is a part of their toolkit, or something that they can store and have that information whenever they need access to. So videos definitely play a huge role. I do feel like, because it's very overwhelming to have so much video content out there, how you create your video content is extremely important. And that is the next big thing to keep the engagement ongoing.
Yeah. So you mean the quality of those videos, yes, and making sure they're engaging. Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. And that's something I've talked about in a previous podcast as well, about how, unfortunately, small and medium businesses in general don't have the resources to do that. So what can they do to make this creation of quality content easier? So you've touched on a bit on some users who are not necessarily tech savvy, and that made me think that you've also worked on non-tech products. So for example, in manufacturing or in hardware. What's the difference between CX for tech and non-tech products?
Very interesting question. So it's interesting because when you work in a tech organization, everyone's thinking digital. But when you're working with a manufacturing industry, or when you're working in such a space where digital is not heard of before and everything's extremely manual, it takes a longer period of time to get buy-in and educate them about the value CX can bring or TX can bring. For those listening, TX is total experience that involves different types of other experiences such as user experience, metaverse, and different meta experiences and stuff. To be able to get that buy-in and explain them the whole aspect of why digital is so important and why experiences are so important, because they are very traditional in the way of their operations and processes, which makes it slightly more challenging to bring that shift in mindset.
So are you then suggesting that for those non-tech products, it's actually about shifting the mindset to product, or can you adapt your role as CX to cater for those non-digital products, or a mix of both?
Or mix of both. It makes of both. It really depends on the nature of the business, the resources, the product, the customers, adaptability. There are a lot of factors, when it comes to customer experiences.
Yeah, and I can think already about, how now with more and more augmented reality, virtual reality, you have sometimes in manufacturing industry, people being trained with those headsets. So that's mixing the tech world with the manufacturing, in that case, world, and bringing technology to help those people be successful and be efficient.
Yeah, 100%. And today, such organization more than anything, especially in the space of manufacturing, are going headless and composable. So they can, play around with their technological stacks, also be able to improve the digital experiences of their customers, and are taking the initiative to be able to create these virtual events which look so real. Oh my God. And makes you feel like you can actually touch the product. So it's unbelievable what the era that we live in and what technology can offer to customers in terms of experiences.
Yeah, that's very exciting. So do you think the role of CX will evolve in the next few years with the spread of these new technologies, be it AI, virtual reality, things like that? How will you, as a CX professional, adapt to that?
I think as a CX professional, you always adapt to things every single day. It's not about what's going to be next in terms of, the year or trends and things like that. You always got to keep up with the emerging technology. One thing that I feel will become very popular in terms of the CX aspect is humanizing the experiences to a personalized, hyper personalized level. When I say that, we're only getting started. When we talk about these experiences or personalized experiences, they're no longer about, hi, Vishali, hi, Magali, this is what you can do. Oh, thank you for buying. Thank you for the survey. It's more detailed in terms of what you need. I'm going to get you what you need, when you need, and we'll figure out how to get you what you need. So its decisions are going to be more data driven and using time as a component in that, because time is key, and using real time data would be first. I think more capable AI powered chatbots would be another one to help people become customers become more self-serviced. And everything in this digital space is so quick, right? If you don't get anything quick, you just feel like, oh, I'm not getting enough value, right? So I think, but those chat boxes won't be boring or will not not understand you. It's going to be more humanized in their experiences. I think the last thing would be NFTs are doing really great. And, I think especially NFTs, crypto, Bitcoin, all these space that we have, especially in the world of finance and manufacturing, the untapped industries will also really evolve and get into CX.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And you talked about time is money and it's very important. So how do we save time? And there's also money itself. So let's assume today you have 10 times the budget you've got now. Would you spend it on this type of technologies? Would you spend it on something else? What would you do?
It would really depend on what I'm working on and what is the customer need. That's what I always look at. How am I solving a problem for a customer? And it can be a customer in any space, in any place, doesn't really matter to me. Whatever they need, I'll get it done.
Great. Now, I like that, the fact that you really think from the product mindset, which is, yes, there's all those fancy things, those new technologies, but this is just part of the solution. What matters is I solve the right problem first.
Exactly. That is the most important thing. And that's what I feel you got to bring in from a CX lens always.
Great. So you work right now in an agency. So what is it like to work for clients as opposed to being in-house? Have you seen any differences?
Yeah. I like that question because I'm experiencing those differences, especially with the transition in job, right? I think the first and the foremost in-house is you have one set of customers based per product or whatever, but it's quite limited because you're still targeting almost the same customer segment or more than max 2 or 3 based on the products you're selling or the services you're offering. But an agency or a consulting firm is vast. In the last 6 months, I've worked with over 3 different industries that I never thought, there can be customers here too. And so it has been very, very interesting because when you work in an agency, the opportunities are vast, the learnings are vast. You work with many more people compared to in-house. It's quite small in terms of the team, especially because I come from a startup-based firm, right? Maybe if I had a different experience, if I was in a corporate, it would be a different experience to hold on to in-house. So it is very, very different. But one thing that I definitely believe is similar is the core values that the place hold and the people that you work with and the nature actually of the people that you work with. That matters the most, no matter if it's in-house or an agency. If you work with the right people, they make even work feel like home. So
right. So actually you talk about, managing relationships and managing projects as well, because this is what you work on. So we've got a question from one of your colleagues, Matthew McQueenie, who leads the relationships and community team at Conabos Consulting, which is the company you work for. And here's the question.
Hi, Vaishali. When you're starting a brand new project, how do you organize yourself so as not to be overwhelmed by all that's before you?
Great question. Preparation is different and looks different for everyone. What works for me is researching about them, about the client or about the organization I'm going to be working with before I even, jump on a call with them. Doing my homework works very well for me. It makes me feel like I know of them. I feel connected to them. I feel connected to their customers when I watch their YouTube videos or when I, read about them on the website, what people are saying, things like that. So I can wrap my head around what's out there about them and then learn from them during interviews of how they want to be perceived. So I'm able to actually get the best of both worlds, bring an outside-in approach and understand the gaps in terms of the experiences they're offering.
Yeah, and I think that's a great tip. That's what I like to do as well when I'm talking to my customers. When you've got lots of customers, you don't know them all, and some are well-known companies and some aren't. And I found that when I jumped on the call trying to resolve a product question and I didn't know the context, I felt, I'm really missing out because I could, if I had done the homework before, I could connect so much better with them and have that understanding, which brings a bit of color onto what they're saying. So I think that's a great tip.
Yeah, I agree. It can feel very overwhelming. And, in our space where we work with a lot of people, we have so much information coming towards us. It can feel a lot. So another tip that I usually work around is visualization a lot. I draw things and mind map them so the information I'm getting doesn't feel too overwhelming.
Right. And good transition to my next question, which is, what's the one tool that you always carry in your toolbox, no matter what project you're working on? So is it a mind mapping tool?
I have my own little way of doing mind mapping. I don't use a particular tool per se. I do what works for me. Sometimes I use Draw, sometimes I use, Figma. I even use Canva has a whiteboard. Miro board is one of my favorites. I sometimes even just take my iPad and use my Apple Pencil to just draw. So, or Excel sheets are one of my other way of just categorizing information and dumping it in a place and then being like, let me just figure this out then.
Yeah, we underestimate sometimes how Excel spreadsheets can use for, you can draw and you've got the cell canvas as well, which helps a lot sometimes when you want to structure things. So I do use that every now and then when I don't have Miro open or something like that. I just use Excel. So yeah and nothing wrong with nothing wrong with pen and paper either.
No, yes, I love pen and paper. There's a crazy, when I was working with IDEO, they made us do like an icebreaker and different design thinking activities. And one of them was called Crazy 8. And I love it. So it's basically folding the paper into almost 8 small packets. When you keep folding it and you open it, there are like 8 boxes and you draw different ideas that you have. So almost a pen and paper also works. It depends what you're thinking about.
Yeah, obviously in a remote world, that's a bit more difficult. I've tried sharing my paper on the camera and sometimes it's a bit difficult.
This is what Miro works very well, I must say.
Great. Perfect. So for the last part of the interview, I like to ask fire questions.
Okay.
I'm going to make 2 propositions and you choose one of them. If you want to elaborate, you can.
Okay.
Dubai or Birmingham?
I love the UK, but Dubai is always home. So it's a difficult one to choose. Birmingham.
Great. In person or remote?
None. I prefer hybrid. It's the best of both worlds.
But your current job is fully remote, is that right?
I love it. But, we actually, whenever I travel, I meet all my colleagues, in different parts of the world. So I like having that too.
Great. B2B or B2C?
B2B. I love B2B because I think there's some kind of passion when you work with different businesses to drive and engage their customers.
Right. I think this one you've already given us some hints. In-house or agency?
It depends on the resources, but I prefer agency.
Software or hardware?
Software.
Great. And so if we want to wrap up and give maybe 3 recommendations for product managers who are listening to this podcast and think, actually, we don't have a customer experience team, because if they work in a small organization, maybe they don't. So they would think maybe it's my role to improve the customer experience. Or if they are lucky to have one team, how can they better collaborate with this team?
Be open and let your guards down when you're interacting with customer-facing clients or frontline workers. You will really understand the amount of insights they share with you and how you can use it to the advantage of the organization and improve the experiences of the customers.
Yeah, and I think this is the most important part is I think your goals are aligned with product management. Is you want customers to be satisfied, you want customers to renew, you want customers to not have to raise many support tickets to try and figure out how things work. So you're actually very aligned in terms of your goals.
I agree.
Right. So how can listeners contact you if they want to carry on the conversation with you?
Oh, they can always reach me out on LinkedIn and Twitter. It's Vishali Dialani on LinkedIn and Twitter both.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed the tips you've shared and also your experience, because we don't hear a lot about non-digital products. So that was really good, even though in the fire question you said you preferred software.
See, I think you got to always remember that even though everyone's moving to a digital world. So I want to be able to create amazing experiences online and offline, but the way the world is moving, and in the next 3 years, everything's going to probably be online. So you always got to keep up.
Great. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you, and have a good day.
Thank you so much. I feel honored to be on your podcast, and it's been such an amazing chat. I loved all the questions, and it's great chatting with you as well.
Thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues and rate it on your favorite podcast platform. If you have suggestions for topics and guests or any feedback, You can write to Magali Pellissier at hotmail.fr.